All right, everyone, we start off today with Donald Trump announcing at some point in the indefinite future his decision. He has made a final decision on whether he intends to run for 2024 again, for the presidency again, or whether he's going to sit it out. I think that the smart money is on him intending to run, and I've said this for a couple of years. He always planned on having a second term. It has nothing to do with the J6 committee, and he's worried about getting attacked legally. That's propaganda. We'll be getting into the propaganda side of the immediate news coverage that you got literally right after the story broke. Dozens and dozens of articles, most of which are quite disingenuous. We'll get into that. I think he intends to run. The earlier that he announces, I think the more sure that that will be what he announces. Here's one problem. It would be wise if he waits until after the midterms, because he's fronted an enormous number of candidates. He's given out hundreds of endorsements. We're talking 80 plus House seats. We're talking gubernatorial slots, states, secretaries, all sorts of things, attorney generals, senators. He's got a huge slew of endorsees. Right now, it looks like most of them will win. So they're knocking off Republican incumbents, and they're running in generals, and many of them are favored. Imagine how powerful, therefore, it is if you stack the U.S. government at both the federal level and the state level, in many cases. Certainly at the local level, it's already been subsumed mostly by Bannon's efforts, actually. Imagine if you wait until after and you can say, well, I decided to run because look at how popular MAGA is. 90% of the people that I endorsed won. Yeah, some of them were heavily favored to win to begin with, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but we tilted a lot of people over the edge. Donald Trump, within the Republican Party, for the purposes of primaries and so forth, is almost unstoppable. He's winning 9-1. That's because he has legendary levels of in-party approval. I believe he should wait until after the midterms to make his announcement, even though it would be very exciting for me and a very happy thing to hear that, yes, Trump does intend to run, which means he probably prevails in the primaries that in some states won't even bother to happen. It would be a strategic mistake, I believe, to get in before the midterms. There's no reason to get in right away. Right now, a lot of the focus is on Biden. Trump isn't on social media, although if he jumps in, they're going to be hard-pressed to, they're going to be hard-pressed to explain how a person running for the presidency as a member of a major party is not allowed on any mainline tech platform. It does open up the tech censorship question again, that can of worms, which should be pried open, and so it's another reason that I do hope that he runs. It's beneficial for content creators too. I just think that it would be wiser to wait until after the midterms. You have something else potentially to brag about. Do you think, I would ask Trump, do you think the economy before the midterms in only a few short months is going to get demonstrably better, or is it more likely to either stagnate or get worse? Every time you get new inflation data, it harms the Democrats more. They're being dragged down ballot in many cases, partially because of Joe Biden's fuck-ups. So getting in now takes the focus off that to some degree and creates a lightning rod singular Republican figure to attack, and by proxy all of the people that he has endorsed, etc., etc. It ties them more closely in as well. If Donald Trump says something that is palatable nationally, but it's not palatable in some vulnerable district where he's endorsed someone, that's good campaign ad fodder. So it would be better strategically, in my opinion, if he waits until after the midterms to announce what he likely is, which is that he intends to run. But I wanted to focus a little bit on the immediate knee-jerk propaganda from the legacy media. And there's a lot of reverse psychology here, and the plan of the Democrats is becoming clear. AstroTurf, the concept that Donald Trump is not well-liked among Republicans, which is completely and utterly and totally wrong, and you can look at polls, across the board, and you'll see this, to convince them that Trump's not popular and is unelectable, to try to convince other potentially viable Republicans to jump into a primary. By attempting to force a primary, they can create a situation where people who are hardened fans of other individuals, Trump spars with them, bad blood potentially is generated because Trump doesn't really hold back when he talks about his opponents, whether it's in a general or primary. We know that. That can be great strength. It can also be potentially a strategic weakness. They intend to attempt to force somebody like DeSantis, Mike Pence potentially, etc., to run. Why? If Trump gets in, and it's quite clear there won't really be a primary process, and somebody else has jumped in, and there is no primary in half the states, so it's fundamentally impossible for them to win at all, DeSantis or whoever. Whatever core fans that they had become less likely to vote for Trump. This is an attempt to force a party schism over a non-issue, and that literally is what it is. There are people who have soured on Trump to one extent or another. The majority of it is still people that would vote for Donald Trump happily if he's the nominee. They've listened to the age question thing, which is hilarious given Biden in office. I predicted that the age question would be brought up regardless. It's quite clear that they're going to try to use that frequently, and they're trying to get a primary going. And in the absence, they can again astroturf to Republican voters, well, you were denied a democratic choice of who to run. Here's the grift. Look on any mainline tech site, legacy media site. What do you see? People talking about how the Democrats are happy about the concept of Donald Trump running. Please run, Donald. Here's why Republicans don't believe he should run. Here's a roundup. Here's the front page of Bing News, actually, right now, if you look up Donald Trump 2024. Trump, battered by January 6th testimony, mulls 2024 run, and not all Republicans are happy. Republicans are odds on to take back the House and Senate in November, and then of course it cuts off because it's just a write-up. Here's the thing. Why don't you be honest? The majority of Republicans are very happy about the concept of Trump running. The vast majority. If you look at matchup polls between him and literally anyone else, he's already over 50%. In a primary system in which half the states will suspend due to his technical incumbency and massive in-party support in those states, he cannot fundamentally lose the primary. It's not even possible. They did this, by the way, in 2016. You'll remember that once the legacy media got done propping Trump up artificially by chuckling about him as though he was just trying to sell more books or more steaks or something, once they got serious about it, towards the end, what did they do? All the CNNs and MSNBCs were begging a bunch of Republicans who they had called far-right, extreme, and terrible people. They were begging Ted Cruz, Kasich, and Rubio to form some sort of weird political coalition. By the way, that plot may have worked if you had done it before Super Tuesday. They waited too long, so they're not even waiting for him to announce. There's always the possibility he says, look, I've decided not to. Everyone's ungrateful, and you don't deserve MAGA anymore, so fuck off. I'm going to spend the rest of my time golfing. I'm not going to drag you people uphill again only to see you elect another Joe Biden, so fuck off. That's one. Why Republicans don't want Trump to announce a 2024 run soon, or ever. That's from Time. Again, these are left-wing publications. Why Democrats are begging Trump to start 2024 right now. That's by Politico. Top Biden pollster tells Trump to come on in and jump in the pool of the 2024 election. That's from Business Insider. So, a bunch of groups that none of which are pro-Trump. There is no legacy media outlet really that was pro-Trump. All of them pretty much dogpile him, including most of the people on Fox. You'll remember this. They are using reverse psychology here to try to convince Republican voters, however many actually read legacy media anymore, that Trump can't win or that he's unliked. They're hoping that people don't actually understand anything about polling. They're hoping that people listen to the black-pilling grift, which they themselves have in some cases directly led to astroturfing. There are also craptivistic groups of liberals that do the same thing. If you think that ShareBlue and similar groups aren't astroturfing DeSantis right now on 4chan and Reddit and elsewhere as the sensible rebels alternative, MAGA can't win. Hang up your MAGA hat, we're prancing with DeSantis now. We'll have MAGA light, so that he can get nominated and he can face the same exact dogpiling unless he's astroturfed. This kind of coverage and horseshit has been going on since 2015. It's not going anywhere for any candidate who is outside of the normal neocon, neolib orthodoxy. It even happens to a lesser extent to leftoids, although they grin and bear it sometimes. Most of the criticism of them boils down to their ideas can't actually hold traction and you're holding back the neoliberals. Why don't you just shut up and deal with the breadcrumbs we're giving you? The fact is, he's made a decision whether he will run. It's no longer intend. He has made the decision physically whether he will run or not. I'm seeing goddamn legacy media outlet propaganda here that tries to dovetail that in with J6 and say, well, he's afraid he'll face prosecution, which is not going to happen. That's why he's planning to run. Yes, he totally wasn't planning to run for a second term from the day he was first elected in the 2016 election. It never crossed his mind. He was perfectly fine with the situation of being a one-termer because Donald Trump is known for half-assing things, of course. He never intended it until Liz Cheney showed up. Liz Cheney, who is going to lose her job in about 4 weeks. New poll came out. She's 20 points behind Hageman, and that's less than before. I personally think she's further behind than that. In every poll, Hageman already has more than 50%. Liz Cheney is trying to get Democrats to vote for her. That's not a joke. It's literally part of her campaign. In fact, it's the only method by which she's campaigning at the moment. She retained her job, it would be because the Democrats wanted to keep her in by voting for a Republican. How very funny. It's almost like the neocon neolib thing is effectively a quasi-uniparty system. And the other thing is, there's no reason to go with anyone other than Trump. If he's running against Biden, they can't really use the age question now, can they? Maybe as a farce, as a satire. I don't think it'll be Kamala. Trump would curb stomp her. Not that literally anyone else wouldn't curb stomp her either. That'd be the easiest thing in the world. She has no core coalition. Buttigieg, for all of his potential centrist strengths, probably could never win the primaries because he's hated within the party. He doesn't have a lot of support, certainly not from the left, certainly not from the Union Dems. He doesn't really have much experience. Again, there's not that many people in the Dem field capable of taking up the standard who aren't at least as old as Trump. Elizabeth Warren would be another potential runner. Hillary Clinton, again, same age. So why would you worry about the age question? Number two, why would you worry about electability if you're one of those people who is worried about fortification, which, by the way, Trump's people, again, have been championing removing at the state and local level. That will not be at least as big a problem in 2024 as it was in the honk-honking that happened prior. Trump has decided whether he'll run. 99% of these people will end up voting for Trump if he does run anyway. I know some people are also saying, well, the Democrats will have higher turnout because people hate Trump so much. Do you think that won't happen with literally any other candidate who's independent-minded? The legacy media is totally not going to spend years browbeating them and claiming that they're a Nazi. As long as it's not Trump, all of a sudden, all of their globaloid efforts, it's just Trump. He's the only one. They totally won't do shit like this to any other candidate. Well, that's horseshit. It's complete nonsense. And by the way, if the Republicans shaft Trump, if they do something legally screwy to try to keep him out, they risk losing in a landslide despite the sitting president having mid-30s approval and reigning over near double-digit inflation. Don't underestimate the Republicans' ability to fuck things up. It's just as much a fixture of the party as it is Joe Biden and his people. That's about all. Peace out.